Welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. Today's video is going to be absolutely bonkers. Now, the data is in, and first and foremost, happy Thursday evening. What we're going to do today, you guys, is go into the stark warning that Target has recently issued about the state of the economy and, more importantly, about the state of the consumer. So we'll deep dive into that. We'll go under the hood. And in addition to that, we're going to go over a recent survey from the New York Fed that's suggesting that people are now much more concerned about keeping their job. And then after that, guys, we'll go into this morning's job numbers. And then after that, we're going to go into an article about Social Security that is suggesting that if nothing is done about the Social Security crisis, that potentially people can lose up to 20% of their Social Security income. So we have a lot of important things to go over today. Obviously, I have our friend, our hero, our colleague, Mitch here to break down this stuff, the economy, all the important stuff, talk about real solutions, talk about real issues. Mitch, first and foremost, happy Thursday. Anything exciting going on today?
Well, I think the Social Security, when we get to it at that point, is pretty interesting. It's got a long history and none of it's good.
Yeah. Any special events you're doing today? Anything like that? I'm kind of fishing a little bit.
Yeah, there's a video or film, actually. It's going to be shot at KW, which is Keller Williams, with the goal of helping all the realtors. They've got 84,000 associates across Canada and the United States to help them understand the depth of this problem. And the realtors have a totally different perspective because they are actually being fed numbers by the CADs. So when they see a number that comes out of it, well, this property must be worth this, the problem snowballs, ergo the fraud snowballs. So this should be pretty interesting for them.
It should be interesting for you too, brother. You'll be fine though. I mean, man, I've been teaching realtors for 5 years. So, and I constantly tell people on the channel, I feel like I pick on realtors a little bit, Mitch. But it's kind of a tough love thing. And I still try to show love and keep my hand open to realtors because they're in charge of leading the community into home ownership. And so if you're helping and educating the realtor, then potentially you're helping and educating all of their clients.
Well,
it's a hard battle, man. It's hard.
That's the underlying goal. And realtors also includes commercial realtors. And remember, way back when I was in Canada, I was a real estate broker on the commercial side. So I understand the game extremely well, but the game has become polluted because of the fraud.
Well, hopefully you'll make some changes, but let's jump right in right now to the article on Target. August 21st, Target shares spike as profits rise despite cautious sales outlook. And the crazy thing, Mitch, again, they're cautioning the market and still Wall Street rallies and pours money in here. It's like nothing matters to Wall Street except pouring money into a company. This is crazy. 3 bullet points. Target beat Wall Street earnings and revenue expectations on Wednesday. Bullet point 2, sales at the discounter grew as shoppers made more visits to Target stores and website and bought more discretionary items like clothing, probably back to school, right? Yet the retailer struck a cautious note saying it expects comparable sales for the full year to be at the lower range of its guidance. So we had Home Depot, we had Lowe's, we had Subway. Here's another retailer suggesting that there is pain to come. Keep going. Target on Wednesday said that sales grew about 3% in the fiscal second quarter, a return to growth after a prolonged stretch of sluggish sales and squeezed profits. And so this article is going to help answer, Mitch, like how were they able to reverse that, right? So it was been, month after month after month of declines with Target, and they finally reversed that. And this article is going to explain that again. The company's shares closed about 11% higher on Wednesday, yesterday, even with this caution, Mitch, even with this caution. That's crazy. It's hard to predict consumers' mindsets and the state of the economy in the coming months. So this is a little bit of what they're saying with consumers. While we've been pleased with our performance so far this year, and our view of the consumer remains largely the same, the range of possibilities and the macroeconomic backdrop in consumer data and in our business remains unusually high. Okay, this goes on. Target, known for its wide array of trendy but low-price merchandise, has been hit as consumers buy fewer items like new outfits or home decor while they pay more for everyday expenses like food and housing. Stop doing Grubhub if you're doing Grubhub, by the way. The big box retailer also has struggled with reduced profits in recent quarters as customers purchase items like groceries that tend to be a lower margin, and losses from damaged inventory. And a big thing is theft. Unbelievable how much theft there is. But the very interesting thing is they're saying there's growth, but you don't see it in this chart. I mean, you literally, the last time, in-store and online sales have been this low, according to this chart, Mitch, is 2021. So, again, this chart is not showing quarter over quarter growth. It's actually showing decline, so I'm a little bit confused there. Those trends improved in the second quarter as Target attracted shoppers with, here's the key, new merchandise and what we all want, reduced prices. Lowe's, Home Depot, especially Subway. What happened to the $5 footlong? It's a $15 footlong. Prices need to go down. Now, this is interesting because here is another chart, again, showing their growth. They finally got that little bit of growth right there. But in order to do that, they had to drop prices. Just this last part here, Mitch, Target has tried to rev up sales and drive higher foot traffic by deepening loyalty and offering discounts. So it all goes back to discounts and making things more affordable for the consumer. The company relaunched its loyalty program earlier this year and introduced a new paid membership called Target Circle 360. Who cares? That includes perks like free same-day delivery, so they're trying to compete with Amazon, obviously. Target threw its own sales event in July to complete, here it is, with Amazon Prime Day, and it announced in May that it would cut prices, beautiful, right, on about 5,000 frequently bought items, including diapers, milk, and toilet paper. And they're saying here that consumers have responded well to, and this is the key here, another price reduction. So to me, Mitch, it makes sense. That's the only way for a lot of these retailers to sustain and be relevant in this type of economy is to cut prices. Can you explain what that article means to you, what it means to the economy, and do you see another way, of profitability for these companies without doing price cuts, Mitch?
Isn't it interesting that Target, who a year ago was embroiled in an advertising PR nightmare campaign, has been silent. So when they say in that article, well, we're getting our loyalty customers back, they created that portion of the nightmare that drove the sales down to begin with. What you saw with the 11% spike, well, that's just Wall Street doing what Wall Street does based on this article. But the truth of it, or potentially not based on this article. But the truth of the matter is, it would take an hour and a half to go through this article and point to all the nonsense that's being spewed here. And there's so many problems. You want to talk about the discounts? Fine. So how do you create a discount when you've got a set price to create that item? Well, only one thing can happen. The quality of that item is not A, made in the United States, B, it's made somewhere else on this planet, C, the quality itself gets thinner and less value. So price is what you pay, value is what you receive. And I would suggest, based on what you're seeing here, the value of Target is coming out of Target, not going up. Their purchasing departments and or the CEOs who allow the purchasing departments to do what they're doing, frankly, should probably be thrown out of the office. And they've destroyed what was a really good company with consistent earnings and consistent growth, and got into the political business and drove their earnings down. And this article runs silent on that issue. And that appears in their advertising in their aisles. It appears in the flow. So your point number 2 in that article talked about people going back to that store. But if you read between the lines, do you know that people now go shopping 2 times a week based on the cash that's in their pocket? And that is just mind-boggling in and of itself, because people know, oh, I only go shopping on a Thursday, what it is. They don't have the cash flow because, again, they're worried about, do I put food on the table? Do I put a roof over my head? So that article runs completely silent. In other words, what you're looking at is a hype piece that's got no basis in reality. I applaud Target for trying to do what they're doing, but the truth is, you're not telling the truth. You get what you deserve. You have effed over your clients, your patrons, and payback on those patrons, a lot of them left you. And now obviously Target is more on the household food and clothing issue as compared to Lowe's and Home Depot. And Lowe's and Home Depot are stable because people require those component parts. But I will tell you that Lowe's and Home Depot have more sales in soaps and detergents than Target does. Why is that? You get my point?
Well, I mean, when you stay out of politics and you stay in your lane, and people will continue to do business with you. I mean, I don't even play fantasy football anymore, Mitch.
And yeah, and they buy parts that are consistently supplied with consistent quality. And Target is not doing that. And that's the problem. I mean, you can listen, I'm not just picking on Target. You know, you can look at Macy's, and honestly, the entire executive suite of Macy's should be thrown out the nearest window. What they've done to that company is just unconscionable, but they did it.
Yeah. Mitch, let me ask you, given that Target mentioned cutting prices on 5,000, I believe, popular items, is it possible that those price cuts set into motion a type of price war with other retailers?
No.
Like maybe Walmart? You
No.
don't think that they're strong enough to do that, huh?
No. Well, if I have an item on the shelf that's $6.50 and I lower it to $6.49 and I get to say in the public, oh, well, I got a price cut. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
Remember, these stores have to make money. The restaurants have to make money. If they don't, they close. It's real simple. So all the hype that's added to it adds to the problem because you're lying to the public. You'd be much better off as a company saying, you know something, we're going to run on a 10% gross margin. Now, grocery stores don't, but on certain items, they run on 1% or 2%. But the bottom line is you did it to yourself. You found suppliers that you have no business getting supplies from. The supplies are inconsistent. You can't get the goods into the ports. Target's got problems just like all these other stores. Like I said, I'm not just picking on Target. I'm picking on that article because the article is just complete nonsense.
Do you think that you don't think that there are real price cuts? Like you don't think that there's significant price cuts? Is that right?
Well, okay. So that's the old Chrysler joke. Yeah. We're going to lose money, but we're going to make it up on volume. It's just like, what? And that's basically the same line, right? You have to make profit on every item or you got to get that item off the shelf. And, even in the restaurants over the years, we've learned that if an item doesn't sell, and we track it, literally it's being tracked by the day. So if all of a sudden an item takes a nosedive, you go and look at the item, you pull it apart, you look at the formulas as to what it takes to build that item, you buy the gram in the restaurants. And if it's not, if everything is checked out fine there, then you look at the patrons and say, why did it slow down? What's happening in their taste buds, whatever is happening, you figure it out. And then if it doesn't work, you take it out of the kitchen. You pull the equipment right off the floor and substitute in something that will. They're not doing that.
Hopefully they'll have no choice but to cut prices even deeper, Mitch. Let me draw now your attention to the job numbers and job report that just came out because we're talking about consumer spending. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, how are you going to get out of this without those price cuts? So this just came out this morning about 49 minutes ago. And, when all is said and done, the market's not cautioning us. The market, the Dow, the NASDAQ, it's not saying that there's a recession, Mitch. The market's up. It's crazy, but the number of Americans who applied for unemployment benefits last week rose slightly to 232,000 people. The expectation was 230. So is Wall Street just putting that expectation out there so that they can go, slightly above that and it's not a big deal? I mean, who's coming up with these expectations? And can we trust the market's reaction, Mitch?
No, of course not. Why? Because the market is going to do what the market does. There's trillions of dollars sloshing around in this marketplace, and it's got to go somewhere. So they look at income statements ideally, but the truth is they don't even do that. I mean, most of this now is done on technicals. The traders who understand what they're doing and the investors who understand what they're doing, they look at the fundamentals, they look at the technicals, they analyze everything. But that's one of the benefits of the market, right? Because it's a standard, random, normal variable. It is going to do what it is going to do. However, the underpinnings of the employment report, that information is just so coincidental that the forecast was 232,000 and the report comes out and it's identical at 232,000. Like, okay, what are the odds? Less than 1%. So yeah, it's cooked.
It technically was a 2000. It was 2000. I think expectations were 230, and then it hit 232. So it's just
magic.
a tattle. Yeah, it's just a little tiny problem, Mitch. Just a little problem. Like we understand what's going on. You're fine. Just keep spending. I mean, this is absolutely crazy. And again, they're not telling us what's really going on. When we look at this next article, let me throw it up for the viewers. August 19th stating, and this is regarding the New York Fed survey, U.S. workers more glum on compensation and work prospects, New York Fed says. Now, I went into a little bit of this in a separate video, but basically U.S. workers are growing more sour with their employment compensation, according to a survey released on Monday by the New York Fed. Now, basically this is what it's saying. As of July, 56.7% of respondents said they were satisfied with their pay compared to 59.9%. Satisfaction's going down. Benefit satisfaction dropped from 56.3 from 64.9. So things, obviously deteriorating. Satisfaction over future career path improved to 44.2% of those polled from 53.3%. Okay, I guess I don't know how that improved. But either way, people are starting to figure out, Mitch, I believe that companies are no longer begging for employees. And also at the same time, there's not as many jobs, there's more competition. What do you see happening behind the scenes with the labor market?
Well, you've got so much of a problem because the government, again, is lying. And the real unemployment rate is hovering around 10.8%. It may actually be greater than that. I'm just looking at hardcore numbers. They're claiming it's around 3.6, 3.8, 4, whatever. It just simply isn't true. And their numbers don't even take into account the fact of the people that have 2 jobs or 3 jobs. And that's why I keep saying they move the goalposts, right? They just simply say, well, we're not going to look at those numbers, look at these numbers over here. And that causes a lot of problems. So when somebody goes to get a job, does it turn into, well, they get 1 job, or they have to get 2 jobs to replace the original job, or do they have to get 3 jobs? And that all adds to the fraud that you're seeing in the taxes, right? So the money's got to come in the government's mind from somewhere. So they create the illusion, and that's what we were talking about yesterday. These are just politicized statistics. It's an illusion. It isn't real. If you want to get into something that's real, you look at somebody's balance sheet and you say, okay, here's the income, here's the expenses. You break it down, you quantify it, you look at the baskets, and the baskets in this particular conversation are where the employees are coming from and how many jobs do those employees have. And if you can't get parts into your country, let's say you're a machinist, you got a company, you got 30 employees, you can't get certain parts. Well, that means that you've got lines of people sitting around doing nothing because you can't get the parts to operate. Well, that's a huge problem. Those people then hit the market. Now, those people have skills, but nonetheless, they hit the market. And that's a big problem.
So, Mitch, I mean, we have Target warning, consumer slowdown, Lowe's, Home Depot, Subway potentially closing down 19,000 stores. We have the survey of people saying, hey, we don't like what's going on out here. And again, the market still is bullish. So now I want to go over to another category of consumer, Mitch, which is the retirees. And, I want to read this article. And if you can, I want you to go under the hood to kind of explain the true problem here. Everything is about to change in the U.S. retirement system. Without action, retirees could face a 20% cut in their checks. This is just kind of going on, about retirees, the sentiment, and I'll just read this paragraph right here. Both retirees and current workers expect to rely on 3 primary sources of income during their golden years. One is Social Security, very important, workplace retirement plans, and personal retirement and savings investment. The research found that 88% of workers expect Social Security to be a source of their retirement income. So a lot of people are leaning on this, guys, while an even higher percentage of current retirees, 91%, report they are already relying on these benefits, which may not bode well for their future economic security. And this is the last part right here. Social Security faces looming challenges as its trust funds are expected to be depleted within the next decade. Without congressional intervention, this depletion could result in benefit cuts of at least 20%. Holy smokes. And in addition to Social Security, Medicare's trust fund for Part A hospital insurance is projected to run out even sooner, adding another layer of uncertainty for future retirees. Mitch, if I'm a retiree and I'm potentially going to lose 20% of my income, my Medicare may be messed up, I'm not going to Target and I'm not buying clothes, man. Is there any truth to this? Obviously, it's an unfunded liability. It's probably a lot worse than that article is suggesting, but can you kind of go under the hood and tell us what's going on with Social Security and whether or not we should worry about it?
Yeah, but before I do that, I just want to address what you were saying, that the market is bullish. A couple of days ago, I said I could make the case for an all-time high shortly, and that's what you're seeing. But that doesn't mean that the market is bullish. The market is about price discovery. And you have certain people like Warren Buffett who are selling major portions of his portfolio to get into cash. You have CEOs of these big companies that are selling major portions to get into cash. Now, whether that's right or wrong doesn't matter, but they have their own math, they're going to do what they're going to do. I just want to make the point that the market is about price discovery. And anybody that thinks that it's really bullish, all you got to do is look back 2 weeks on Monday and see the largest volatility spike that we've seen in the last 40 years. So that could be the precursor to something that's coming up. Yet, yes, the market is temporarily, short-term, bullish. So getting into the Social Security issue is a horrendous issue. And again, a fraud perpetrated on the population. So what you have is 215 trillion in unfunded liabilities as estimated. And I actually sent you a copy of that report this morning. It's pretty interesting. So it's called the Financial Report of the United States Government. 215 trillion in unfunded Social Security liabilities. And yes, it is over a 75-year period. But even if you break it down by the year, the reality is the shortfall between any potential income versus the expenditures as estimated by the government, it's their numbers, okay? It's $80 trillion. In other words, there's no money to pay for this. And this, again, backs up. It's a correlated issue in reality to what you're seeing at the CADs. They have overspent, the governments have overspent, and now they turn to the taxpayer and say, pay us. And if you don't, we'll take your assets, in the case of the CADs. Now, all these seniors that are in today's world are fortunate that the government is going to print temporarily, but they're going to do what they're going to do to keep Social Security alive. The problem is nobody wants to address it. But the reality is people of my age or your age or the younger people, Social Security, the odds of it existing are very minimal. Over and above that, it really shouldn't exist in the first place. See, Social Security was created, if I'm not mistaken, around 1935 as a result of the Great Depression. So again, in theory, these things sound good, but people don't do cost-benefit analysis, which should have been done, and they don't understand the ramifications because there's a yin and a yang, right? There's a ramification to doing something like this. Well, the ramification is that you, the government, made people needy and thinking that, oh, yes, I'm going to have a pension, and this is where my pension is going to be, rather than making people think, well, I have a little bit of money in my pocket. Where do I go and invest that money? So using the rule of 72, had they have done that in 1935, think of the wealth, the real wealth that would be created versus the fraud that the governments have perpetrated on the population. Everybody would have money in their pocket. I mean, there's obviously people that would blow it, whatever, but that's not the point. The point is you're teaching people how to think. What they've done is teach people how to hand their money off to somebody who can't think. And therein lies the problem. This thing shouldn't exist. Now, I'm not saying kill it today. What I'm saying is this thing needs to be wound down because the math isn't there. The population to make this math work doesn't even exist. Never mind the money. The population doesn't exist.
I mean, that's absolutely shocking. I mean, it just seems like everything that's going on, you know, all ages, all categories of consumer are being absolutely ravaged right now by the inflation, the greed, the corruption, you know, the massive price run up that no one wants to talk about over the last 3 years. Like, y'all, the price, I mean, my God, the price run up. I mean, you know, it's just hard to know what to do except stop being part of that rat race, right? And that brings me to this next thing, Mitch, and I want to reach out now to the viewers, and I want to challenge you as viewers. Let us know what you're going through. Okay, we can't depend on the markets, we can't depend on so much data, but again, when we look at surveys and when the media allows us to understand what's going on in the households on Main Street, we start seeing what's really going on and hearing the stories and struggles of what's going on. So I want to challenge you guys, comment below, let us know where you're at with your income. Are you making more money than you were 3 years ago? Let us know about your savings. Do you have more savings now than you did 3 years ago? And let us know about your debt. Do you have more debt right now than you did 3 years ago? Because again, there's so much conflicting information. It's really hard to get an idea of what's going on. So you guys, please comment below, share your insights with us so we can all understand a little bit more clearer what's really going on. Now, before I get out of here, Mitch, man, always appreciate your time. Always appreciate your breakdown. I told Mitch before, you know, we started recording, I was like, Mitch, I was going to do this video by myself, but I was like, every time I talk to Mitch, you know, he says something brilliant. I mean, it's like natural for you. So, you know, I appreciate your time, Mitch, and your support, man. Anything you want to say before we end this?
Just that I'm very thankful for all the people that are continuing to sign the petition and push these videos forward to everybody that they know, because it's crucial. And we know that these videos are now getting in the hands of the politicians. There's quite a bit actually happening in Johnson County today as a result of these videos and result of us pushing this stuff forward. So I just want to say thank you, and please keep up the work, because getting these videos out is crucial, and helping people understand what's happening to them is crucial.
Well said, sir. And guys, don't forget, in the description, pretty much every video now in my description, there is a link to petition. There's a link to evidence. There's a link to a document called Kryptonite. Obviously, we want you guys fully equipped before protest season starts in 2025. So hand of applause for Mitch. A lot of love for you, Mitch. Thank you so much, man, for helping our community with your perspective, with your expertise. I'm going to let you go, man. And other than that, guys, if you're out there investing in real estate, you know that we wish you luck, and we want you to kind of pump the brakes and slow down a little bit. But either way, we hope you win.